the senator who passed incredibly anti-LGBT laws in his state.
Yeah.
And he was gay.
Yeah.
And when he asked about it, he said, I was elected to make those decisions, regardless of what my personal preferences are.
Exactly.
And I was like, you know what? I don't know what to say about that. You know,
it's like Kanye wearing White Lives Matters t-shirt. There are some people who are just sellouts.
Yeah, you think that's marketing, right?
Oh, fuck yeah.
Okay.
Some people are just hungry for the dollar. And they're willing to kiss any ass, put on any mask, you know, like just to make money and to...
Who else other than Kanye could have pulled that off? I don't think Jay-Z or R. Kelly, that wouldn't fly. I mean, R. Kelly could do it from prison.
The thing is, like, to me, even Kanye, his whole identity, his whole brand, it's all hype.
Okay.
You know, it's a castle built on sand. I don't think...
Ooh, interesting.
I don't see him as a genius. I don't see him as someone who's like, come on, you're going to compare him to Einstein and Newton and, you know...
Okay.
What's his name?
What about Beethoven? What about if we keep it closer to the music realm?
Beethoven, fine. Okay, Beethoven was a genius because for his time, you know, being deaf and still going against all the greats in Vienna and whatever and you know, that was great, you know, like, and especially when we look at like pre-internet, you know, even when you look at Michael Jackson or Madonna in their heyday, you know, or Elvis or whatever, like these are people whose brands were meticulously crafted by corporations, you know, even if you go further back to Marilyn Monroe and all of these brands, you know, like their image was crafted, their likeness was owned by the corporations. That's why they all died of drug overdoses and shit, you know?
That's a very interesting point you bring up, because I remember that I was reading in memoirs from Marilyn Monroe, and she would spend up to 4 hours in the mirror just practicing her smile.
If you're trying to be the best at something, the best in your field, you're trying to command the top dollar. You know, Marilyn Monroe wasn't known as the greatest actress. She was no Meryl Streep. You know, she was not Betty Davis, but she was known as the sexy bombshell, you know, so she knew that every single look, and she had to know her angles, her lighting, you know, and stuff like that. You know,
you make a fair point. Voice.
And just her silhouette. You look at Marilyn's silhouette in black and white, you know, and just black. I mean, it's so iconic and so recognizable, you know, like she understood how to create shape. And to make that shape like branded in people's minds, you know, branding means to burn.
Sure.
You know, on your cattle, and the inspiration comes from that. You know,
well, would you give all that credit to Marilyn Monroe? Or would you give it to Andy Warhol?
It's everybody.
Andy Warhol.
It's also the corporations that, you know, did the plastic surgeries and forced her into abortions and did all of that to keep her image, you know. De Beers paying for Diamonds Are a Girl's Best Friend, you know. It was all marketing and brand, and same thing you see it today with Beyonce and Britney and... But
don't you think that Marilyn Monroe pop art is almost like Da Vinci's... what's the smile from Da Vinci called? Mona Lisa.
Yeah.
Do you not feel like there's going to be a certain time where people won't remember Marilyn Monroe as a movie actress, and rather than the art subject?
She's not known as a movie actress per se. Like, she's not known for her acting chops. You know what I mean? Like, her movies are not Oscar winners. She's not somebody who won anything, you know? She was just an it girl, you know? She was the precursor to I mean, she had the beauty and the sexiness to back it up, but she was the precursor to the modern day Kardashian, you know.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah. And you see a connection between those two?
Yeah, I mean, it went from Marilyn Monroe first it was Rita Hayworth, who was the original bombshell, the redhead. And they called her the bombshell because they put her name and image on the Hiroshima bomb, you know, and she was the first civilian to successfully sue the American military for using her likeness on a bomb that killed, you know, so many people. And she won.
That's a branding nightmare.
and she won, you know, but they popularized the idea of the redhead being a bombshell or a siren or a firecracker or whatever comes from Rita Hayworth. And then came the blonde bombshell, which was Marilyn Monroe. And then after Marilyn, there was really nobody until Pamela Anderson.
But wait. You made an interesting statement right there, because I would argue that Venus is a redhead.
Venus, you mean the goddess, or
Venus as in the painting?
Oh, the Venus de Milo.
Venus de Milo, okay. Right? And she's also a redhead. And so if you're talking about the siren...
I'm talking about the idea of a person turning themselves into a brand without any talent or product or chops, or you know what I mean?
Like when
you look at the Paris Hilton and then the Kim Kardashian, these are the more recent iterations of people who are famous for no reason, you know, no real. I mean, what did Kim Kardashian do other than do a sex tape?
Yeah, get cum on her back. Yeah,
exactly. It was as like revealed recently, like fully negotiated by her mom. You know, her mom pimped her out basically.
That sucks. But
but that's the thing. That's why. Like, you know, all the butt implants and the whatever, and showing naked with the whole attempt to break the internet photos.
Yeah. I remember that one.
You know what I mean? Like, ultimately, like, she is just selling her body and her image for money. And that's just very, very high-class prostitution. You know? But also, the Kardashians in general, like, they only date black men. And it's like they use them and discard them, you know, whether they're rappers or sports personalities or whatever, whether it's Ray J or, you know, more recently Kanye, you know, okay, bye, he's crazy.
Yeah, she dated that white dude, didn't she? What was his name? Pete Davidson.
Oh yeah, that was like her rebound after Kanye, but even Pete Davidson is not that white.
That's also very true. Well, do you feel do you feel there's a racial issue with it, that they date black guys because it's like a taboo still in like people's minds?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
definitely. It's because they're not really white girls; they're Armenians.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, they're Kardashian.
I mean, I never followed them that closely.
Their dad was OJ's lawyer.
Yeah, that I know.
That's their claim to fame.
Yeah.
But they were infamous. They were basically persona non grata back then in the 90s. You know, and Kris Jenner, being the shrewd businesswoman and momager that she is, once she realized that like Kim had made a sex tape, and she was like, well, this is going to come out on the internet anyways. Let's do a whole reality show and turn this into a thing.
So you think the sex tape with the business so the modus operatus, you think, happened after the sex tape was filmed or before? Because Paris Hilton famously told Kim, you should make a porno video and that's how you're going to get famous.
I mean, like I think Kim was at the time, like, because Paris Hilton kind of also capitalized on the sex tape, but Paris Hilton was the other way around, you know, where it was like leaked, and then she went and sold the rights of it to a production company and called it A Night in Paris.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I get your
Kim Kardashian there was a lot of celebrities at that time who were doing sex tapes because of what Paris Hilton did. But again, a lot of people also forget that the original
OG
sex tape was the Pam and Tommy Lee sex tape.
Yes, they made a movie about that now, didn't they?
Yeah, and that was leaked. That was not them. They were offered millions and they refused, because to them that was their honeymoon tape. That was their love. That wasn't a sex tape. That was their private, intimate. It was locked in a safe, you know, etc. And it was stolen and it was leaked and they were blackmailed into it, you know. And so like I feel more bad for Pamela in that sense, you know.
I feel it's hard to feel bad for anyone who works in Hollywood though.
No, I mean, here's the thing, like Pamela Anderson especially, like, okay, people forget she's Canadian, you know, and she like, Canadians don't have that entrepreneurial shark that America has.
Sure,
you know, Canadians are just sweet, nice, neighborly people. And she happened to be a sex symbol, a Playboy playmate who was on the most covers of Playboy ever.
Yeah, but she also knew what she was doing.
She knew what she was doing, but what I'm saying is that, like...
Can he put on Pamela Anderson?
In those days, they obviously, there was no internet, there was no social media, there was, no digital. This was a tape, a VHS tape. You know what I mean? Like, it was a private home video. Like, this wasn't something she did with Tommy Lee for fame. They were already famous. They were already millionaires.
There was no crew involved. There was no lights.
Exactly. You know what I mean? Like, so with Pamela Anderson, I feel bad in that sense. I feel like she was violated and she was almost like raped by the world. You know what I mean?
Interesting.
Like,
okay.
Suddenly everyone can see her being fucked. And this was not her choice. Whereas when you look at Paris and Kim Kardashian and all of that, like, and a lot of other celebrities too, in the past 10, 15 years, who've leaked sex tapes or whatever for fame.
You don't think there's any ounce of personal responsibility on Pamela Anderson?
No.
Really? I mean, she didn't have to film it. That would be the get-go.
She has every right to film it.
Sure, but...
And it'd be private and it'd be locked in a safe. And it's not even, we're not talking like the VHS tape. It was the little tape from the camera that needed the adapter. You know what I mean?
Sure,
like, it wasn't even something that her kids could have seen by accident, or it was something private between her and her husband. And I think that is totally like fine. Whatever two consensual adults do in the privacy of their bedroom is their business.
My counter argument to that would be...
And it shouldn't be shown to the world.
If you wear a nice watch and it gets stolen... Sure, it sucks that it got stolen, but no one also told you to A, wear that watch in that place, and B, buy that watch. You know what I'm saying? I feel like...
It's very different.
Come on. I feel like you're...
No. Listen, just... Okay. Take off your clothes and go walk out into the street naked and see how you feel.
Okay.
And see how bad that feels, And then imagine, like, now millions upon millions upon millions of people for all eternity can see that. And not just your nakedness, because she was fine with her nakedness. She was a Playboy model, but it was this private moment with her husband. They were making love. They weren't fucking for the camera. They weren't doing a porno movie.
I think you're over romanticizing it.
I can't help it. Like when I look at Kim K and all that, to me, that's like, fuck you. You're just doing it for the money. You're a whore. You're not worth $1 billion. Okay. But when I look at somebody like Pamela Anderson, I kind of feel bad for her because it wasn't her choice. It was, like I said, it was stolen from their home, and it just feels like it's different for Tommy Lee. He became even more famous for his gigantic dick.
Okay.
And how great his dick was. Palm trees suck. Palm trees are so bad for the environment.
Okay.
Like, they suck up so much water.
Okay. Well, they produce dates. They got their business.
Yeah, dates are terrible for you. They're nothing but sugar.
No, they're not terrible.
They were great for you in the year 610 when you had no fucking supermarkets.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I love dates. Don't get me wrong. But what I'm saying is that...
Would you like some dates?
Sure. I'm just saying we idolize them as a symbol, like...
Well, listen, look. What is it? There's like 48,000 mushroom varieties on planet Earth that we've found so far, and only 300 of them is edible. I mean, if you're talking about lifespan as an indicator for dietitianry, then Japan has got it locked down.
Yeah, it's not just lifespan; it's also quality of life. It's
that's true.
Like, for instance, that's one thing I loved about living in Lebanon, because you just see these old ladies who are, I walk uphill for like 2 minutes and I'm like out of breath and dying. And this 90-year-old woman is like walking with her back straight and like...
Yeah, but she's been struggling all her life,
No, she's
she's tough because she's been through it.
She's moving, you know? She's not living a sedentary lifestyle like we do, and she's used to farming and foraging and moving and, building and doing, that itself is exercise and movement and stuff like that,
Fair, but I think your data set is incorrect because you're only looking at the ones that managed to overcome it. The others with the broken back are dead.
But they found that the main indicator, the connect, because they've done a lot. You know, they've looked at villages in Japan and Italy. You know, like the Centurion villages where it's mostly people who are over 100 live. There are like hotspots in the world, and they couldn't figure out whether it's because method. And it's okay. Well, some of them smoke and drink. Some of them never did. Some of them are vegan. Some of them are not. Some of them sleep. Some of them don't. Some of them have stressful jobs. Some of them don't. So they're like, we couldn't find like that connective thread.
Common indicator.
Except for one thing. And that was that the people who lived up to 100 or beyond 100, they felt like they were part of a community.
Because I know scientifically, the literature indicates that you're 3 times more likely to reach 100 if you have more than 3 kids.
More than 3 kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there seems to be a correlation between community and life expectancy.
Yeah.
Which isn't
I'll probably
that
die by 60 because I do not want kids. I don't like people.
Okay.
So I don't want to create one.
Okay.
And I don't need to feel some sort of God complex where it's like, haha, he created life, you know, like.
I don't know. Very pessimistically.
I am, you know. But also, like, first of all, they're cute little babies for like this much of the time. And then they're just some dude. You know,
okay.
For like the rest of
it,
you know, like for most of the time they're just like some asshole called Abud, you know, or whatever. On top of it, like they're fucking expensive, you know, and I like my money. I work hard for my money and I want to spend it on myself. You know? I'm selfish.
Okay.
You know, like I want to go on vacations and I want to buy nice food and I want to buy pretty things and I don't want to spend my money on my kids' fucking $20,000 like a year school or
statistically, you earn more money if you have kids.
Yeah, but I don't care. I still want my money for myself, you know, like, and I don't know, like I just like I have nieces and nephews. I barely know their names and ages, and even
I'm sure they appreciate that.
No, I'm just saying, like, even if when I have the chance to be some sort of proxy parent, I don't know what to do with the kid, you know, like put me with a 4-year-old and I'm like, so what do you do for a living? You know, like, I don't know how to communicate with them. You know, I was never a child myself. I don't have.
You were always born old, you mean?
Oh, fuck yeah. I was, I was just born full of ennui. You know, like, I came out of the womb with a cigarette. Like,
maybe you should move to Paris.
Of life, you know, like.
The world's smallest violin. I think you should move to Paris. I think you'll fit in very well.
Every cigarette is a fuck you to life.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It's the rebel in me.
Yeah.
That just won't go to bed, you know? Like,
you say that now, and I'm sure by the time you're 60, you're going to be like, just one more day. Just let me watch one more sunrise.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Like, it's like, I want that desire to live a long, healthy life and to, you know, quit smoking and eat healthy and go to the gym, but that hasn't clicked yet. My dad had a heart attack. I never got a call, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, I don't have much of a relationship. Well, I say much of, I don't have a relationship with my dad. And it's very much by choice from both sides. And it's always been that way.
Do you think you guys are just too similar?
In many ways, but also I think he just never wanted a son. And I never wanted a dad.
Like, very French of you.
I was very happy, like when my friends were, oh, my dad is busting my ass, my dad's making me do this, or like my dad will beat me up, or I'm like, I'm so glad I don't have like someone.
Again, all negative.
Yeah,
again.
no, I was very happy. I had no one to answer to, you know, and my mom is awesome. My mom was always more of a best friend than a parent, you know, so I was always open to her. Like, I talked to her about boys or smoking or whatever, you know, like it's always been open. We've always had that relationship, you know. She's never like judged me or punished me or anything like that, you know. She allowed me to be who I am. Whereas even now, like my sister will be like, you know, like, even now you're older, like, don't you want a relationship with your father? I'm like, no. Like, I don't see the value in it, and because my sisters have a close relationship with him, they go see him all the time, etc. But for me, it's like, it's very unnecessary, like
It's difficult.
It's not so, like, you can't miss something you never had. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, I don't have a concept of having a father, of some male figure, to tell me what to do or guide me or whatever. I've always been the like, I taught myself how to shave and do all the manly, things. And like, I never needed my dad for that. Again, like I said, you can't miss something you never had.
Sure, but you can be envious of things you don't have.
No, that's the thing. I was never envious. When I looked at my friends' relationships with their dads, to me, it's a very weird relationship.
Yeah, because from your explanation point of view, it was all negative.
And not just that, like, especially in our culture, the father is king. Mm-hmm. You're supposed to, like, bow to him and kiss his hand and shit, and I bow to no one. Like, I've been saying this since I was like 12, 13, like, I believe every guy, when he hits puberty, should get a mandatory vasectomy.
Okay.
Freeze some of the sperm in a sperm bank.
Okay.
Just in case, because it is a reversible procedure, but just in case, have backup. And when you're ready to have a child, to procreate, then you get the thing reversed, But first you have to get evaluated.
Okay.
You need to go through training to drive a car. You need a license to operate heavy machinery, etc.
Okay.
Because lives are at stake, right? Lives are your responsibility.
Okay.
If you're gonna fly a plane or drive a car or whatever, like, parenting is the same. No one gives licensing or training or evaluation.
You have a lot of belief in institutions, which I find is very interesting.
No, I think there's some very basic stuff. Like, you gotta be financially able. You gotta be psychologically stable. You gotta be, like, not everyone should be a fucking parent, and I think
That's a very different argument than saying you should go to vasectomy and go to a, like, parent school.
Yeah.
Those are two very different things.
More than half marriages end up in divorce, and especially here in the region, the rates are even higher when.
But let's be honest, it's because the society's become more liberalized, and that's why. Same as in Western societies.
Here, our divorce rates are higher here than Western societies
Because it's been more liberalized.
No,
Absolutely.
because there's because a lot of marriages are basically arranged, and the people realize they don't like each other.
Arranged marriages tend to do better than love marriages. Wait, the divorce rate for arranged marriages is less than 4% versus 40% of marriages in the U.S. where parents choose to marry on their own free will. Can you look it up
that's
for, like,
the U.S. and
Can you look at global rate? I mean, most of the data sets are obviously going to be either India or the U.S.
I read something more. I'm talking about Bahrain. Like, I don't
think they're that different.
They are.
People are more similar than different.
But when it comes to dating and marriage and relationships, it's very different. In the West, it's very different. Even the divorce laws are different. Here, a woman doesn't get half what the guy has, etc., etc. Like, she has to have a dowry. She has to have,
Which is not a bad thing either.
But I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying that, like, it's not the same thing.
Yeah, but men in the US...
The type of marriage, the structure of marriage, the quality of the marriage, the objective of the marriage, everything that happens before the marriage, during and after, are very, very different when we're talking about Khaliji Islamic marriages compared to Western marriages.
Okay, fine.
Here, for instance, like, in the first year, 73% end up in divorce in the first year. Mm-hmm. It goes to 50% in the second year. Like, because they're putting a boy and a girl together who have not had that much experience in relationships, have not cohabitated with someone of the opposite sex.
It's not necessarily a bad thing either.
No, but what I'm saying is it's like, even if you meet someone you like and you're like, oh yeah, we love each other, let's get married, living together is a whole other ball game, Like, I know people who were secretly in love for like 6, 7, 8 years and then got married, made it official. A year later, they got divorced.
Yeah, because they love the idea of hiding it. And
No, not just that, but like living together can be very different. You could be mentally and emotionally compatible, but you don't have to be domestically compatible. You could hate living with each other.
Yeah, but this is all
Same goes with your best friends.
Sure.
Like you could love your best friend, but they don't have to be necessarily make a great roommate.
Sure.
It could be an awful roommate.
I hear where you're coming from.
Domesticity is a different ball game, and especially like when we're talking about a lot of people here are not getting married with all the forethought of pre-planning and family and financially planning for it, and a lot of them are getting married because they're young, they're horny, they're not allowed to date, they just want something I'm sorry, but like at 19 or 20 or 22, like you're not wise enough to make sound decisions, about like your life in terms of.
Why do you say this?
Your prefrontal lobe doesn't finish developing until after you're 21.
Who gives a shit? 1,000 years ago, by the age of 30, you were dead. You were married by the time you had your first child.
Yeah, but that's
14.
not the case anymore.
Yeah, it's only been 100 years since we had a childhood. Prior to that, you were off working.
True. But what I'm saying is, we do live in a different world now. And
only because we're westernized. Go to places like in Thailand. Go to places like Vietnam. You're 6 years old and you're working on a shoe, right? I mean, let's not kid ourselves.
Yeah, I'm with you. But that's the thing. But that's not the case here.
And what do they teach in America, by the way?
Yeah.
The moment you're old enough to hold cash, what do they try to instill in you?
What?
Go run a lemonade shop. Go hustle.
Yeah.
Go earn money. That is like as part of
because it's a very capitalist society,
Well, every society is capitalistic.
Yeah.
You know what? The older I get, the more I miss how Saudi used to be.
Yeah.
I miss how everything was very clear. I hated that women were able to drive. That still annoys me.
Just last year, it was all over the news, and so they caught this Thai madame. And she
Madame.
Yeah, and she named names. Yeah. And it turned out that like so many of the pimps in Jafar who owned the properties and were ultimately making the money were American military.
Oh yeah, there was that incident.
Yeah.
I remember in the newspaper where they caught this American guy. He kept this girl.
It wasn't just one. It was like 15 of them.
Yeah.
Some of them were generals too. Yani. Like they get housing allowance. They just live on base, and they give their apartment to a Thai lady, and she recruits girls from Thailand or whatever, and they use Tinder to hi. And even all my friends, they were like, yeah, I just passed by Jafar, saw a girl, 15 dinar chick.
Okay, what? They stopped and got a quick blowy or?
Yeah. Not even a blowy, like the whole thing.
I'm blown away. I'm blown away.
I've done, this was, 15 years ago, but I wrote a whole article about prostitution and even gave a talk about it in a university. And, I interviewed a lot of pimps and prostitutes. First of all, the race is directly related to value.
That I totally believe.
Yeah.
But that's everywhere.
From the Bengali to the Saudi virgin.
Yeah.
The Saudi virgin commands the highest price.
Wasn't there, can you look that up, Dan? There was a Saudi girl, I think, who sold her virginity.
Many do.
No. It was like big news.
Yeah, but I don't know. I've never seen it in the news, but many girls sell their virginity, and then it's like 15,000 dinars, and then they go and do the operation and re-virginate themselves. It's still prostitution, It's the oldest job in the world.
Sure.
And it's the oldest job in the world for a reason, because prostitution started out as a sacred religious ritual. It wasn't like girls on the streets and shit,
I mean, even in ancient Rome, they had prostitution. Even in Egypt, 5,000 years ago.
Yeah.
How far back do you want to go?
The way prostitution worked was that, see how when a nun joins the convent, she's married to Jesus? Mm-hmm. This was the same concept. Aristocratic women have to spend one season of their life, usually springtime, once in your lifetime, like we go to Hajj, whatever, you have to go and spend it at the temple. And when you're at the temple, you are married to the god. You know, you are one of his wives. And what you do is you do services around the temple, you know, and one of the services is that you sleep with the pilgrims, and the pilgrims donate money to the temple, you know, for its upkeep and stuff like that. So for them, it was a sacred duty. It was a sacred ritual. She was the god wife, you know, like that was performing her duties to the pilgrim. But later on, it became just.
Are you romanticizing this again?
No, I've done the research into the history of it. You know?
Yeah,
like,
but
it was like that was the first in terms of like paying for sex.
No,
you know, like especially as. And I'm not talking in terms of marriage, because marriage is just legalized prostitution,
sure.
Right? It's like, I'll buy you a house and a car and feed you and stuff, you know. It's not for an exact sum, but it's still a transaction. But prostitution as a thing on its own started off as a religious thing, you know. Women would give their bodies for the god. You know?
I don't know if that's how it started. I would believe that there's an aspect to it that involved like that.
I mean, it's just from the like what I've read.
I mean, apes commit prostitution, and you find it in chimpanzees as well.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. You're talking about transactional sex.
Yes.
Yeah, transactional sex. That's what I'm saying. Marriage is transactional sex.
I mean, that's one way of putting it, I suppose. Yeah.
Of course it is. What's a dowry?
But do you not see the dowry as a way, as a safekeeping?
Yeah,
in case?
Call it what you want, you know. But at the end of the day, it's you're paying money for her vagina. God is dead, so I mean.
Yeah, I mean, for we have killed him.
Yeah. I mean,
interesting, man.
People say that, you know, God created man in his own image, whereas I think we created God in our own image. You know, we humanize this phenomenon called God, you know. And
not every culture does.
Not every culture, but a lot of them do. A lot of them will humanize a phenomena. Like Indians. When you look at paganism, for instance, you know, like there's a few
Egyptian.
Not just Egyptian. Every culture had a pantheon of gods.
But none of them are very humanized in the sense.
No, what I'm saying is, not humanized is the right word. Personalization, characterization.
But it was a way to tell stories.
When you don't have, not just about stories, when you don't have control over something, you look upwards. You know what I mean? So there's no like God of walking or God of going to the bathroom. It's always God of love, God of fertility, God of war, you know, God of thunder, things that are not in your control, you know, God of the harvest or whatever, you know. So they did a study in Duke University in 2005 about control, and they wanted to see what was going on inside the brain when you felt in control and when you were not in control. Mm-hmm. So they had two groups. You know, both groups had to answer a Q&A kind of thing. There's like a screen with a button, and are you human? Yes. You know, are you male? No. Whatever. You can
take it.
Yeah. And for half an hour, you do that test. After that test, they asked you to stare at static television for about 15 minutes. And then record what you saw. So group A, they rigged the machine, the test machine. So are you human? You pressed yes. It would say, wrong answer. You know? And after half an hour of, you know, you're just pressing at this point. You know, it doesn't matter what you're answering. You know, you're not in control. The computer is going to decide what it wants to decide. But group B, they didn't rig it. You know, yes was yes, no was no. They were in complete control of the situation. They finished the test, and it was fine. When both groups looked at static television, the group that was in control didn't see anything. The group that was not in control saw all sorts of things, words, shapes, images, and they were wired up. So they were seeing, like, when you are in a state of not in control, your brain is firing and neurons are attaching to each other in ways never before. You're connecting things, you're finding meaning, you're creating patterns, because you're not in control, because you need to make sense out of the senseless. So for instance, if something bad happens to you in your life, or you're hoping for something that you have no control over, you will look at something beyond you. You will look at something, call it a god, give it a name, give it a story, give it an identity, perform a ritual, give it a sacrifice, whatever, over time, But a lot of the times, especially early human, like when you look at, like, religion predates civilization. The point that I was trying to make is that religion predates, like, a lot of people think of religion as, oh, this was a way to control the masses. Religion was a institution, to control people, but it predates all that. Right now, the oldest kind of site we found is Göbekli Tepe in Turkey. I had this amazing book called The Etymologicon. It just groups, like, stories and words together in a way that was brilliant. There's one chapter called How Testament and Testify and Testicle all have the same root. Because you used to, when you would testify in court, you would grab your balls. Like, and I swear upon my balls.
That's I like that. You're really putting something at risk there.
When you think of, like, the Old Testament and the New Testament,
You hear it everywhere then, yeah.
The Old and New Testicle.
or where, as in werewolf.
Yeah.
Right? Which we used to be man for male.
Ah.
And that's why it's male wolf.
Male wolf.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that.